Hello and welcome to the 31st episode of When I Was Your Age, a podcast celebrating the careers, callings, and creativity of some friends of mine. I'm your host, Roland Parker, and as always, it is a joy, pleasure, and a treat to have you here. Today's guest I'm really excited about is Juwan Hill. I'm so jazzed to kind of get his perspective about what it's like to be in a major sports organization. Getting his perspective there, I think it's going to be really awesome. Some housekeeping before we get started with Juwan. Make sure that you follow the Instagram at WIWYA Pod. That's kind of the main place that you can get in touch with us. And thank you guys so much for the support at the time of recording. We are at 1,252 followers, which means a lot for the support that you guys show. If you are listening for the first time, consider giving us a follow. You can do that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Podcasts. And if you've been here before, thanks so much for making it back around. Welcome back. Make yourself at home. You guys can also watch episodes on YouTube if you're more a visual person. And the links to all those places are available in the link tree in the Instagram bio. And that's going to wrap our housekeeping stuff. So we'll go ahead and bring Juwan into the stream. Juwan, how's it going? What's up with you, man?
It's going good, man. Hanging out. I'm excited to be here. It's a real honor to have you invite me onto your show.
Nice, love it, man. So you were on vacation recently, yes?
Yeah,
Or
I
was
went
it vacation?
yeah. So my girlfriend, she temporarily moved over to Hawaii, and so I went down there to visit her. Yeah, it's funny. To kind of break that down at the very beginning of our relationship. So she actually did an internship on the Big Island down there in Hawaii
Okay.
while she was in college. So she was down there for 3 months on a farm and fell in love with it. Like Hawaii is her favorite place on the planet. And so, yeah, I went down there and visited. She's there for 5 months, just hanging out. Then she's going to come back to the mainland. And then we'll go from there. But yeah, I went to visit for 8 days. It was awesome, man. We went to Kailua Ranch where they, filmed Jurassic Park, and went to the Polynesian Cultural Center where they talk about, all of basically French Polynesia between, Tahiti, Fiji, Tonga, Hawaii, Samoa, New Zealand. That was super cool. And we did a lot, man. It was awesome. I feel rejuvenated.
No, I love that. I didn't know that she lived down there. I thought it was just like a trip that you guys were taking, but that's got to be cool to have someone who's there to kind of help guide you along, like show you some spots and everything.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. She loves it and she knows it all down there. So some good poke. You ever want some poke? Hey, I know all the spots now. So
yeah, my exposure to poke is really just like Pokeworks. If you've ever had that, it's like basically if Subway was poke, like they have like the little line and like you go through and pick like your seaweed noodles or whatever you want. So that, but I need to get it for real, I'm sure. If you guys want to see some of what Juwan's talking about, maybe catch some of the clips from his trip down to Hawaii recently, then you can follow Juwan on Instagram. Make sure that you go check that out. But yeah, man, let's get right into it. I got some questions that I ask everybody, and I like to get everybody's perspective in this way. So tell me, where are you from and where do you currently live?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised Houston, Texas. Grew up on the north side, around in Spring, Texas, right outside. And yeah, I reside here in Houston, Texas now.
Nice, love it. And I think it'd be cool to do a little tracking too of how you ended up back home. But maybe we'll get into that in a little bit too. So Tell me, what do you do?
Yeah, so I am an account executive for the Houston Astros. It's basically a sales position. Unlike most sales positions within sports, it's a hybrid role where I basically specialize in large group outings, so group sales, premium sales between suites and our more luxury areas around the ballpark, and season tickets. So
nice, very cool, very cool. Love that. And obviously we'll talk much more about that later. I'm excited to get some more understanding of that. How old are you? Kind of a theme for us on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm 26 years old. I feel like I have to say that really quick because all the other episodes I was watching for your podcast, everybody's like, "Oh, I think I'm 26," or "I think I'm 20." No, I'm 26. I'm every bit of young 26. I'm not forgetting this.
I love that.
I know exactly how far away from 30 I am.
Nice.
I'm going to make sure I always know.
I dig it. I dig it. That's funny. I had a guy ask me in the grocery store the other day, and it was the first time that somebody asked me that I think I like said out loud that I was 27, and I was like, I like said it confidently, but inside I was like engaging with some serious turmoil. I was like, oh man, that's weird. Um, but what piece of media are you currently enjoying? So book, podcast, music, TV. Tell me what are you into lately?
Yeah, so I've got one book, two shows, and three podcasts that
Okay, well,
that I'm
it's a
going through right
break them
now.
down for us. Let's hear it.
So the one book I think is maybe a little cliche. I'm not sure, but Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
Um, I come from an area where not many people at all are too financially literate, so it's just the foundation book for those that don't know about it. It's written by Robert Kiyosaki, and it's basically a foundation book to get your mindset turning a little bit towards being a little more financially literate and having an idea of what it takes to not have to work till 50, 60 years old. So,
Mhm. Nice.
or at least not have to work a 9 to 5 till 50 to 60 years old. So,
Yeah, nice.
that's the book that I'm really into right now. In the middle of that, as far as the shows go, I'm really. It's funny saying this. I'm really into American Idol right now. Uh,
Really?
yeah, really,
Nice.
really into American Idol right now. Because we have a contestant from Maryville College on there.
That's
Uh,
right. That's right.
yeah,
I just thought is Will Mosley, right?
yep, Will Mosley.
Dude,
Yep,
that's so sick. I saw like a bunch of people like sharing like the same like story, and like I was seeing like the same part of like the clip, and I
yeah.
like didn't really recognize what was going on. I was like, why are all these Maryville College people like putting this American Idol clip? I was like, it's got to be somebody, and I was like, oh yeah, like I didn't know him like personally, but I
Mhm.
was like, Maryville, like you
Right.
see everybody. So I was like, oh, that's so cool. I love that. Yeah,
No,
that's
I'm in it, man. It's awesome to see somebody live out a dream like that.
yeah,
That's awesome. You
that,
know.
no doubt.
So ironically enough, I believe so. The season just started with American Idol,
Uh-huh.
right? So like I think last week was the first episode, and he wasn't on there yet. So I believe tonight is the episode that he's ironically
Okay,
enough tonight is the episode that he's actually gonna come out and I guess hopefully make it to Hollywood. So we'll see.
let's see.
But yeah, really into American Idol for that. As far as Netflix goes, you always got to have something on deck for Netflix, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like and I got Griselda on right now. I don't know if you've heard
Okay,
of it.
what is that?
Man, all right. So it's Griselda. That's the name of the main character. Mom, head honcho. She's supposed to be like the female El Chapo, and it is
Okay.
10 out of 10.
Nah, is it with Sofia Vergara? Is she the main actress in
I
that?
couldn't tell you. I,
That
I
that
couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you.
I think that it is, but I'm not too sure. I feel like I
Yeah.
saw the blurbs like when I've been watching
Is
it and
she a
seeing.
singer?
No, she was in Sofia Vergara was in Modern Family. She was the Colombian mom.
No, but she looks like her. I know exactly who you're
Okay.
talking about.
Okay.
Yes. But
Gotcha.
she does look like her. But it's a great, 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 great show. It's a limited
Nice.
series, 8 episodes long. So you want something
See,
quick?
yeah,
It
I'm
is.
into like a limited series. Like I don't like I sometimes have an issue getting into something like for the long haul if it's like
Oh yeah.
it's sometimes I need it to be a good blend of like, all right, if it's like 3 seasons, then I'm like, that's pretty attainable. I can binge through it if I want, and it like I don't have to commit to like a Grey's Anatomy situation, and I'm gonna be here
Right.
for
Exactly.
years. Yeah.
I think it's so funny. Like even through let's just say college, right? Like people will say, "Oh, you got to start Grey's Anatomy." You want me to start what?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
how many
It's
seasons?
like yeah,
Oh,
it's like anime length. Like, honestly, like there's like like so many episodes. Like I just like I can't handle it. I don't know. I've watched like a handful of episodes, but I've just really never gotten into it. But yeah.
well, I got a question for you then before I
Okay.
hop off the TV shows specifically. Is what is greatest show all time? I got to know.
Greatest show all time? Um My
I'm
favorite.
hoping you give me one. There's one correct answer.
Okay. So one of my favorite. I got a couple answers to this. So my favorite like season of television, like just one season, was Watchmen. It was kind of limited series situation. I
Uh-huh.
really loved that. It was great. I was in it like all the way. I couldn't wait for episodes to come out. Um, one of my two of my favorite shows that were like just I thought so well put together, like front to back, like for all of the seasons that they were on air, was The Wire and Succession. I was
Mm,
super my dad was like pushing me to watch The Wire for a long time. He's like, I think you'd really like it. It's really good. Like a lot of people consider it like their favorite show ever. And I was
mm.
like, I don't want to hear that. And then like once I finally got into it, I was like, okay, he was right. Um, and then Succession, we finished that. I guess I don't know, within like the last year. That was really good. I loved the finish of it. I was super into Game of Thrones. People got strong feelings about how it finished. We actually, oh my
I was
gosh,
there at your
it's
house.
yes,
I
we
was there at
watched
your house.
the Battle of Winterfell when it was aired. That was one of the most insane moments in like media for me because it was like the Battle of Winterfell, and then like the next day we went and saw Avengers Endgame. So I was like, it was like a bunch of people around us for like that event, and then we went and saw Endgame like the next day, and I was just like, I don't know how I can go to class tomorrow. Like I feel like I've been like pulled into like two different worlds. It was crazy. What is it? What was the answer that you were looking for?
I was looking for Game of Thrones to try to connect it to the one time that I did come over for that.
Yes, I'm glad that you said that.
That is
It's
my favorite. I think it's the greatest. I don't care what anybody says about the ending. I loved it.
mhm.
Now, I've heard that if any show can compare, it is The Wire. I have
Yeah.
heard that from a couple different people.
It's really good, and
Okay.
it's shocking too to see all of the different people that will show up in it, like all the different actors and stuff. So, like, one of the main guys, he plays Charles in, The Crown. So
Okay.
it was cool to see that, but, like, Idris Elba's in it. He's, like, a major like person in that. Michael B. Jordan is in it for a couple seasons. It's yeah, like people pop up and you're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know like this is how this person like got started out. But it's cool. I remember the Ravens did like a graphic that was kind of alluding to one of the key like scenes from The Wire. It was talking about Lamar Jackson, like Lamar's coming, and like something like that, and it was is it kind of alluding to like one of the major like players like in the show, and it was pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. Well, all right. Those are the shows. And
Nice,
then as far as podcasts go, I got three different ones. When I was your age, of course, that
sick,
is that is
love
that
it.
is the number one podcast. Roland Parker, everybody. This is the guy. So,
That's awesome. Thank you.
and then I'd say there is one that is sort of like a limited series type deal. It's these two younger guys who just recorded 150 episodes about basically financial literacy.
Okay,
So Money Monopolizers, shout out to them. Really good one. And then Bigger Pockets. That's they have different sectors where they have Bigger Pockets money where they talk about just financial literacy there, or they talk about real estate and Bigger Pockets real estate. I mean, there's a lot that
nice,
they cover. So free game if you're ever curious
nice.
about that world.
Do you listen to FYI Fly? It's
I
Hassan.
yes. So
I
yes,
I listen to them too. I love getting to see like all the different like just anything that somebody from Maryville College or like I have any kind of connection to. I love like getting this to see all that. So I want to get them on the podcast. That would be
oh,
cool
you
to
have
see.
to,
It's
yes,
a
yes.
but it's it Hassan and
So,
who else is involved with it? Because I think he's more on the production side.
Remy Green, yeah,
Thank you. Yeah,
Remy Green. So
yeah,
yeah, they're both in it. If so, these are everything I have on this list as far as media goes. This is what's currently going on. I would
yeah.
easily throw FYI Fly in there.
Nice.
What's really cool, obviously, the two hosts that are on the show. If you ever heard about them, go listen to some episodes. It is incredible what they're doing. But like you said, them going to Maryville College and graduating from Maryville College is awesome.
Yeah.
But they're both from Houston as well, so that's what's really cool. But
Oh, yeah.
me and Hassan went to the same high school together.
Stop it!
So,
I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So he saw me and Mason Denman up there at Maryville and came up there with us. So it was he was a year
Love
below
that.
us. So that was it's really cool. So like I said, like I feel like people where we're from, most aren't the most financially literate. So it's really cool seeing what he's doing to try to get that knowledge out there for everybody.
Yeah, it's cool. I love getting to see all the different guests that he gets on there and stuff. But
He's doing it big.
cool.
He's doing it big for sure.
Nice, love that. What's something you'd consider a luxurious necessity? It kind of blurs the line between like a need and a want. Maybe elevates some part of your life, be it work or some different area. What is that to you?
I would say being able to walk to work. I live
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
I live right across the street from Minute Maid Park. It's really cool. I've been here for a year and a half now, but I move out this week, so
Dang.
that is it's a luxury necessity that I do not need. Although it has been, I feel extremely blessed to have had the opportunity to be
Nice.
able to walk to work.
Are you
So.
not going to be able to walk like in the new spot?
No. So interestingly enough, I wanted to find a spot. So there's a metro rail all around Houston, right?
Okay.
Or at least like really inner city Houston. So I wanted to find a spot that was right next to a metro rail, and sure enough, I found one that was $700 cheaper than where I'm staying right now. So it's perfect,
Love it.
and I don't have to drive like I'm not doing here. So
Nice.
it works out. It works out. But yeah, I'm excited.
That's cool. That's cool. That's good. That's good financial literacy. It's a good application of it.
Yeah,
That's
you
good.
want to talk about living below your means. Yeah, I knew that this was going to be temporary, but I mean, how often do you have the opportunity, no kids, not married yet, get to live downtown? I just think knowing it's a
cool.
temporary thing, why not? So
Yeah, great.
Now it's time to get out of here.
Yeah, I feel that. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
So do you have any bits that you're doing? Think like inside jokes that you've got either just with yourself or with significant other or even like close group of friends? Like, well, what is that to you? Is there anything that pops in your head?
Yeah. So one pops in the head at work. So obviously, being a sports front office, all we do is talk about sports, right?
Mhm.
And it's funny because more than half the entire front office, and this is not just my department, this is the entire front office. There's about 200 of us between IT, scouts, sales, HR, corporate sponsorships. I mean, everybody. And more than half the front office isn't even from the state of Texas. So,
Really?
yeah, which is really interesting. I love telling people that. Like, it's really interesting.
That's cool.
And so what is pretty cool about it is that you have all these different kinds of people that came from all over, right? So all these different backgrounds. But what comes with that is all these people that are fans of all these different teams outside of baseball, right?
Nice.
So you want to talk about things getting heated whenever the NFL season comes around. Because you're talking, I mean, just imagine you're talking NFL is in the same exact time as the MLB postseason, right?
Mhm.
So you just want to talk about emotions being high in the
Yeah.
office. I mean, it's really high. So
And so everybody's just like picking a hill to die on and like
oh
like
yeah,
grilling each
no,
other for.
everybody's on their hill. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And like one thing
That's
that we
gotta be
love to
cool.
do is make fun of Cowboys fans. Oh, we love it.
Mm.
We love it. And so what Dak Prescott, every quarterback, whenever they're lining up, they have their little saying, blue 42 or
Yeah.
what old Peyton Manning always say, Tennessee boy.
It's
So
Omaha. Yeah.
yeah, Omaha,
In his
everybody.
cadence, yeah.
Exactly. Every quarterback has their thing. And so Dak Prescott, he says, here we go. And so just every
Nice.
time we're walking around the office, we're just, I don't know. Like anytime somebody has like a hot take or something, and somebody randomly just like, oh, okay, here
All
we
right.
go.
Here we
It's
go.
just funny.
That's funny. I can already kind of picture the implementation of that and
Oh
that.
my gosh.
Yeah,
It
that'd
gets
be it. That'd be a good one. Yeah, I love the emergence of that too. I've seen a couple of TikToks of like people like crying in their car before work of like trying to gear themselves up for like all right, here we go. Like getting ready to like walk in the office, like that kind of thing. Yeah, I love the emergence of that as a meme too. That's great. All right. So big question here is, if you had the opportunity to replace the national anthem with any song on your playlist, what song is it going to be? And tell me a little bit about that.
This one's hard, right?
It is hard.
Because you can go so many different directions. What do I just want to do a hype song? Do I want to be funny? And I know in previous episodes you talked about how you like to be more funny
Mm-hmm.
with it, but I mean, I think I want to get something a little more hype, right? I'm going "Dreams and Nightmares" by Meek Mill.
To be honest with you, I've been waiting for this to be an answer. This is perfect. Yeah.
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 Dreams and Nightmares, Meek Mill. It's very provocative for the majority, I would say, right? But
mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it, right? Please rise for your national anthem. Ain't this but what they've been waiting for? It's just start, boom. I mean,
exactly.
Props. And everybody's just, hand over heart. You go, Meek.
Mm-hmm. I can totally feel it. I love that as an answer. I think it's perfect. Nails the brief. No notes.
Just love that right there. I think people that listened to the song when it came out, especially like playing any sport,
mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh! Like in high school,
yeah,
if that song came on, I mean, like if you were playing baseball, you're getting 3 hits that day. It's you're playing football, you're getting a couple touchdowns that day listening to that song. It's what's coming. But.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's perfect. I can't wait to get that on there. We've got it added to the Spotify playlist. Make sure you guys go and follow. You can find it in the link tree. What's great about this is like I've listened to the playlist like a couple times now, and I'll like, oh, this was so and so's answer, or this was this person's answer, and I love getting to like get different perspectives.
I love that,
and like to the brief too. And like now that like Dreams and Nightmares is going to be in the same playlist as like Dancing Queen and Freebird and like, all of like these different answers. And it's gonna like they don't make sense until they do. So that's great. That's why I love it. Last question for the get to know you section is, how do we know each other?
Okay, so I was thinking about this one really hard because we met in college, right? We both went to Maryville College together. Go Scots, baby. By 90, but yeah,
by 90 at least.
So yeah, I know we met in college, but I know we probably had to have met freshman year because I feel like almost everybody met freshman year or maybe early sophomore year, right? But I cannot pinpoint the first time that we met.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like freshman year was just like a total blur. It's so long ago now.
I feel that too. I don't know if there is like any one time that I could pinpoint as like, oh, that was the first time that I like met and talked with Juwan. But one of my like fondest memories of Maryville College in general was football orientation when you were a peer mentor and like going on the rafting trip and just like rocking the wheels off the Maryville College van with the kayaks on the back. And there was one Jason Aldean song that you started playing and like everybody groaned and you were like, no, this is a banger. I'll die in this. This is so funny. I think what is it? You Make It Easy or something like that. It's just.
I bet I was singing my heart out. Like, no, y'all are gonna listen to this today.
Because like these people have been here for like a week and a half, and you're just like belting it out. They're like, I'm not trying to hear this, and like a few people kind of like softened up in the end, but it was so funny. I'll never forget. Also, like Astro World had like just come out too,
wow.
And I remember listening to like some of the songs from that, and that was really fun.
I love it.
All right. Well, let's get into a little about you. Yeah, obviously we touched on your work in the front office, but tell me the story of how exactly you got started with the Astros.
Yeah, so I might as well kind of go to the beginning, like we talked
Sure.
about, right? So, like I said, born and raised Houston, Texas. Um, it's funny because I feel like everything led to a trickle effect, honestly.
Mhm.
At first, I didn't, the thought of going to school out of state was like, what? Like, it was almost foreign, at least kind of, the high school I went to, most of the people, like, it was kind of foreign to go to school out of state. So, kind of long story short on that part, one of the coaches from Maryville reached out to me and said, hey, we got a spot here. Would you mind coming to visit at least? And so, long story short, me and my dad flew up. And I kid you not, the weekend, I remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, the weekend that me and my dad flew up to Tennessee, this is my first time on a plane, everything. First off, I saw the mountains and I was like, all right, this might
This is
be it.
pretty cool.
'Cause, I mean, you see
Yeah.
Houston, Texas, it's flat everywhere. It's every bit of a city. It's a city.
Yeah.
Nothing nature about it. It is
Mhm.
a city. And I love the nature. I was in Boy Scouts growing up. Went camping a lot. I love it. Loved it. So yeah, anyways, the weekend that I went up there to Tennessee, it had to be, I'm talking 69, 70 degrees outside, not a cloud in the sky. All 3 days we were
Mhm.
there. Perfect. I mean, it was kind of one of those moments of like everything happens for a reason. It was like you
Yeah.
knew at that
Okay.
point, right? So, go to Maryville, graduate from Maryville. I loved every bit of Maryville. Loved every bit of
That's
Maryville.
awesome.
And I appreciate any and everybody who feels the exact same way, because I know there's a lot of people like you and Tabby that feel that same way too.
Yeah. No doubt.
Um,
For Scots.
yeah, go Scots, man. So yeah, graduated with business management. Um, was there at Maryville for 4.5 years. I ended up working for Old Smoky at the
Mhm.
distillery. Putting that together, worked at Old Smoky while I was in college up there in Gatlinburg. That was awesome. Loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, even till this day, I loved every bit of that job. And I'm sure you
Yeah.
had to too, like,
Yeah, it's, it's hard to think of, like, better, like, college, like, jobs, like,
no.
it's a cool gig, like, it's fun, you get to, like, be with people and be funny and, like, just engage with all different kinds of folks, like,
Yeah.
I aside from, like, my own, personal bias, like, towards Little Smoky, like, anyway, like, I
Mhm.
think it's genuinely, like, a great, like, college job, like, it's
Oh
awesome.
my gosh. I think working at the distillery was probably, I can't tell you how many times I've sat up and really thought to myself, like, I mean, this has to be one of the coolest college jobs in the country.
Yeah,
Has to
no
be.
doubt, no
Has to
doubt.
be. And part of what I loved about it so much is that I think on average, it felt like we probably talked to at least a third of the country every single day working
Mhm.
at the distillery.
Yeah,
I mean, seeing just every state ID was awesome. I loved
yeah,
it. I loved it, loved it, loved it.
totally.
Um, so yeah, did that. So at Maryville, for people that don't know, right, it's fun fact, it's one of the only 17 schools in the country that requires a composition exam and a written thesis. And there's over 2,400 four-year colleges in the country, by the way. But anyways, so go Scots, baby.
Go
But
Scott.
I'm sitting up at the distillery one day, and I can't think of what I want to do for my thesis. Right, it's coming around that time where you got to come up with the topic, and almost jokingly, but very serious. After a day or two, I was like, you know what? What if I did my case study on Old Smoky Moonshine? Right.
Wow,
So
nice.
boom, a couple semesters later, finished a 50-page thesis study over Old Smoky Moonshine.
I love
Um,
it.
and that ended up landing me a position as a territory manager for Old Smoky on more of the corporate side down in Louisiana. So fresh out of college, I basically moved straight to Louisiana and lived in Baton Rouge, and loved it, man. I was by myself running the entire state of Louisiana. My boss lived in Dallas at the time. I think he still lives in Dallas. Bo, I
Mhm.
love him. It was awesome, man. I loved every bit of the job. Um, I think it got to a point where I felt like I wasn't making as much as I probably could have for how
Sure.
much work I was putting in. So I ventured off into, which was a huge pro and con. But I ventured off into the staffing industry.
'Kay.
And for those that don't know, at least to me, right, staffing and recruiting are practically the exact same thing, except staffing, you're doing twice the work, right?
Okay.
That's kind of how I look at it.
What was the distinction for like recruiting and staffing? Like if you could break it up like in
Yeah,
one kind of
yeah,
factor.
yeah. So like recruiting, you're basically just finding. So recruiting, you're a recruiter for a specific company, right? So
Okay.
say I'm a recruiter for Dell or HP
Sure.
or something, right?
Okay.
I'm trying to get the best candidates possible to come work for Dell,
Okay.
right? But if I'm working for a staffing company, I'm within my own entity with that staffing company. So the staffing company I work for was Ronstadt, for example, right?
Okay.
What we would have to do is go find candidates to go work for. So I worked in logistics and manufacturing. So basically working with blue collar workers and trying to get them to work in these warehouses.
Nice.
So I have to go find these different companies that have shipping and handling departments that are looking for these warehouse workers. I have to go find the warehouse workers to go work for these companies, right? So it's
Okay.
pretty much double the work because I have to go find the warehouse and then go find the candidate for them. Whereas
Gotcha. So
recruiting, I'm just finding the candidate.
gotcha. So you're playing like a little bit of a matchmaker. You're like, oh, I know someone that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. No, I got you.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I was doing that. Shout out to anybody that's in that industry, but to say the least, was not the biggest fan of it. So
Okay.
I got into it and I learned really quick. So I did that for 4 months and I started searching for other things. And it was always a thought of mine. How cool would it be to do an internship with the Rockets, Texans, or Astros? Right. I grew up, born and raised in Houston. I love Rockets, Texans, and Astros. Huge fan. Always have been. And I always thought about how cool it would be to do an internship with one of them, let alone landing an actual job.
Yeah.
Right. So, I'm just kind of surfing the web, looking at, all three sports, land on the Astros, apply. And it's funny because in my head the whole time I'm thinking, it would be really cool if they just saw my resume and thought, oh, wow, his resume is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and get him
Yeah.
out for an interview. If I got to that point, I knew, okay, I'm happy. The
Yeah.
Astros wanted me for an interview. So yeah, man, long story short, I put my application in. They, asked me to come out for an interview and it was the whole shebang, right? They got me in there at 11 a.m. It was on a game day too. So it's 11 a.m. It's
Oh,
a group
whoa.
interview, with a bunch of other people. The game that day doesn't start till 7, but we're there from 11 o'clock till the time the game starts.
Did they post you up like for the game? Like they like set you guys up
Yeah.
with
So
like
they put,
seats and
yes,
stuff? That's really cool.
yeah. So there were about a dozen of us in this group interview. And I don't know, like for anybody who's been in a group interview before, like it's intimidating, right? Like the
Yeah.
one-on-one piece, I think, is a whole lot easier than the group piece, which a
Mhm.
lot of people would say the other way around. But I mean, it was extremely intimidating when it was because you have everybody listening to all your answers. You don't want to sound
Oh,
dumb, you
yeah.
don't want to sound stupid. But yeah,
You're
man,
trying to like you're trying to like shine enough, but also not seem like a jerk, like by like
yeah,
talking over people and
absolutely.
stuff.
So I'm over here trying to get like all buddy with the other candidates while trying to entertain
Yeah.
all the Astros employees at the same time. I don't know. It was a tough one. So, but yeah, they put us in a suite for the game and had us all mix and mingle and eat free food. And I mean, it was awesome, man. So I remember at that point because it was 3 rounds long. So up to that point, that being the third round. So uh, just getting there to that point, I just thought to myself, like, man, I am so happy and fulfilled that I even just made it to this point.
Mhm.
And the next week, I ended up getting a call and got the job, and I've been there for since August of 2021, and
Wow,
it's
man.
it's been a blessing. It's been a serious blessing to
Yeah.
have 2 rings in 4 seasons. It's
I Yeah, I love that for you. And like I remember kind of thinking like as all of this is unfolding and thank you for sharing kind of the whole journey with that. I was like, it's really great to like have Juwan here, like like at Old Smoky. Like I've got somebody who was gone through like some of the same experiences as me and is like like in it with me. And then you ended up leaving. I was like, like that's kind of a bummer, but like I'm glad to like see like him going to do stuff. And then like it's a staffing job like for that short time. And then Astros, I was like, I could not think of something better for Juwan, and for the Astros, like, to be honest. Like I was so jazzed to like find. I was like, this is awesome. I'm so happy to like see that for him. It was so cool. And like when I think of you too, I have always thought of like sports and like Houston sports. Like you listed them all off. Like how like has that always been important to you, like growing up in Houston, like going to games and stuff? Or like tell me about your relationship with just the sports scene, like outside of baseball or with baseball too. Like tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I've grown up big University of Texas, Texans, Astros, Rockets, just the biggest. But yeah, I didn't go to too many Texans games just because they were always a little more on the expensive side growing up, But Rockets and Astros games for sure. I've grown up going to games, and I can't tell you how many games I've gone to. But yeah, it's been awesome. And I think what's really sort of so surreal about, especially being in like the ticket office with the Astros now, is just how we're selling out pretty much every game. And it almost brings me to tears going to the
Yeah.
games, just seeing how into it everybody is and how different it is today. Because whenever I started watching, I wasn't, that crazy fanatic kid that was like, oh yeah, like I've been watching every single game since I was 4,
Hmm.
but when I did start watching, I was the weird kid that I would sit up and watch every single game. There's 162 games in baseball season. I watched every single one. There's about 80 games or so in the basketball season. I watched every one.
I
Football
love that.
speaks for itself. I
Yeah.
was that kid. Now, I wasn't so much of the person that could tell you every stat about every single player, right? Like I wasn't really like that, but
But
I
the
watched every
passion is
game. I
just
was
as
just
much
so
there.
passionate about it. Yeah. Oh yeah,
uh
yeah. I loved it. But I mean, whenever I started going to Astros games, for example, I'd say back 2010, 2011-ish was when the franchise was arguably at its absolute worst. So
mhm.
you want to talk about being like a real deal fan and going to games at that point, like half the stadium was filled. I mean, we made jokes all the time where like nobody wanted to go to Astros games. I mean, like people, we would make the jokes that people would break into cars just to leave their Astros tickets in the car. Like it was like that at one point, man. It
Oh
was
man.
like that, and it's crazy. So you want to talk about really being surreal and being in this moment now? I mean, it's unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
seriously unbelievable.
Is it you mentioned like just the contrast now of like when you first started going to games and like looking around and seeing all of the seats filled and everything. Like that's got to be such a cool thing. And I like what you said about surreal, because I've got it written in my notes too. Is that like it's got to be surreal to be a part of a brand and a team like that's so identifiable. Like like I work at the Yankees front office, or I work for the Astros. I'm on that team. Like I have the rings. Like that's got to be such a surreal thing. But like, have you tell me about like maybe a moment that has felt larger than life? Like, have you had anything like that? Like just being there. I'm seeing you kind of
Oh
kind of looking
man.
around and like seeing stuff now. So tell me about that.
Oh man. I think just in this 2.5 year stint that I've been with the Astros, I could give you maybe a few. I know like one. Now, so here's the thing: there's only so many sports teams that have their actual front office at the stadium that they play at, and
Mhm.
our front office is here at the stadium at Minute Maid Park, which is awesome, right? But and it's cool going to a ballpark every single day. It is so cool, but obviously with it sometimes becoming a little monotonous, you
Yeah.
get blinded to I'm here at an MLB park, right? Because you're so tied in with your actual day to day work, right?
Yeah.
At your
Sure.
desk,
Okay.
right? So um, I'd say parts of the job that have made things feel like it's been bigger than life. I'd say one piece that makes us realize, oh crap, like we're here, is one thing that we do is we'll bring out different clients or certain people down to batting practice before the game starts, about 3 hours before the game starts, and it's really kind of one of those once in a lifetime moment kind of things because it's before the gates open and we let fans in. It's just the players on the field for both teams, the players in the field practicing and getting their batting practice in, and just maybe, I don't know, let's say 40 fans right
Mhm.
behind on the field, just watching them warm up. And whenever they're done warming up, they'll walk over and sign autographs. And I mean, it's awesome, man. Just having like the families and their faces, knowing that this is like truly a once in a lifetime thing. It makes you realize, like, okay, this is bigger than life for
Yeah.
sure. And I
Yeah.
think one of the main things that I love about my job is that we have something called the Future Astros program,
Okay.
and we have the second largest. I think almost every MLB team calls it something different, but they have pretty much this same kind of deal, right?
The same structure,
The same structure, right? So Arizona is number one. They have the biggest, and the reason that their program is the absolute biggest is because not only have they been doing it for a really long time, but Phoenix is in smack in the middle of Arizona, right?
okay.
So basically, what this program does is it allows all the little leagues that are around, say the Houston area, for example, and
Mhm.
surrounding areas, to all come to a game and do a little league parade around the field before the game even starts. So
That's awesome.
what's really cool is we'll line everybody up. It's about, let's just say, maybe 1,000 kids, right? 1,000 kids and their coaches. We'll line them up in the parking lot. We'll bring them down like the actual players' tunnel where the players come and walk down. We'll
That's
walk
sick.
them down, and there's just this big opening. If you look up like Minute Maid Park and look at the right field corner, there's a big opening where we walk them down and we walk them around the entire edge of the entire field. But the cool thing about it, we do it while the players are warming up on the field. So,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when these kids, you're talking kids from 4 years old to about 12 years old, when these kids get on the field and their eyes light up, it is, and just being able to stand there and watch that look on every kid's face as
Yeah.
they come on the field, it's surreal. And
Mhm.
I mean, I got shit like, I wish the camera could see, but like I literally had like goosebumps thinking about it. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's I think easily a moment where you don't forget times like that. You
Mhm.
definitely don't.
That's amazing. It's so I've gotta share this story because it's like one of the coolest things that I can think of for me as a kid is like when we were younger, um, we grew up in Birmingham, so like there wasn't a lot of like team commitment. Most people I knew were Braves fans. And
Mhm.
like just because of the proximity, like, Atlanta's like 2.5 hours away. So I was, but I didn't really want that. And I loved the Red Sox. And my dad got these like tickets like for work. So we like did this like family trip
Mhm.
and we got to go on the field on Father's Day, like after the game, and they like gave us out like these like little like game like foam balls, like, and like
Wow.
we were just like playing catch like in Fenway, like on the field, like doing that, and like that was something like I'll never forget. And we were completely awful like all throughout the day. Like we were just like in a bad mood and and
Uh,
like falling apart. Like we were terrible kids that day. But then like when we were on the field, like there was just like something like magic like about it. And like it's like it's one of the fondest memories that I have like with my dad. So like you talking about like these kids now, like getting that moment, they're like nudging each other, like, oh my God, that's Alex Bregman. Like
yeah, yeah.
they're like freaking out. No, it's like that's such a cool thing to like witness for one and like get to be a part of, like help facilitate. Yeah, that's got to be amazing.
I mean, it's awesome, man. It's awesome. There have been some extremely cool moments being, at certain games and stuff, and I mean, it's just been, yeah, yeah. I could go on and on.
Yeah, I love to see that for you. So tell me a little bit more about like the actual function of your job. So it's like sales, group sales. So like, what is something that you would look to do, like a project that you might have like from start to finish?
Yeah. So like I said, there's group sales, premium sales, and season ticket sales.
Okay.
So there's two sides to, and really, I ought to break down almost the whole thing when it comes to sports sales, right? So I know, like, before getting into sports sales, I didn't really know exactly what all sports sales consisted of. I know generally there's sort of the hierarchy or the ladder of in most teams. You start out entry level being an inside sales rep, right?
Okay.
Like, if you just want to work in a sports sales, um, basically that's how you get your feet wet. Most people fresh out of college or people that just are first want to get into sports sales, that's what they start with. And that insists on like 60 70 calls a day, just trying to get any possible sale you can,
Yeah.
with anything, right? Any
And that's
product.
like game day like tickets or like season tickets, or what does that look like?
Right. So that would be with all product.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I know. So that's with group sales. Like, so
Anything
with
and
group
everything.
sales, right? So I'm realizing I gotta be obviously a little more specific. So, like, group sales consist of schools that'll come out. We have a lot of day games. So a lot of schools or offices like to get out of work early and come to the day games, right? If it's during the week. So we'll have big, office groups, school groups, big organizations that like to come in, and kind of mainly what we focus on a year-to-year basis is building the book of business,
Okay.
right? So anybody you basically sell, especially a suite and a group, for example, you have to focus on putting them on your book of business and making sure that they try to come back next year, right?
Okay.
So kind of part of my day-to-day, especially like in a time right now before the season starts, is trying to call all those people, email all those people that I've talked to in the past year or two to make sure, hey, a lot of dates filled up fast last year. The season's coming around the corner. What date do you
Okay.
want before it fills up or sells out quick?
Gotcha.
And so that's basically kind of the gist of what I'll do as far as renewals go.
Okay.
And then there's really kind of two sides in my department specifically, and this is really kind of almost every sports team, is there's a services side and there's a sales side, right? So on the services side, it's about 75% services and 25% sales, whereas on the sales side, it's vice versa, right?
Okay.
75% sales, 25% services. Um, so on the services side, basically your job is to make sure that every season ticket holder that we have, which is about 20,000, you have a portion of those season ticket holders that you basically want to cater to, and make sure that if any questions they have or anything that they need, you're on top of it at all times with that
Okay.
specific season ticket holder, right? And that's normally with full season ticket holders. We'll have partial season ticket holders, which that's where the 25% of the sales, or 25% of services on the sales side comes from, is that what sales reps like myself will more so get into, is basically selling those season ticket holders, and then after they're sold, we pass it on, to the services side.
Okay.
But what we service are those partial season ticket holders, right?
Gotcha.
So that's really kind of the gist. But I mean, I'm kind of going all over the place. But
No, you're good. You're good. So,
but kind of back to like the ladder. I know you start off with inside sales, and then after that, it's you sort of jump into an account manager role, like myself. An account manager, which is services, or an account executive, which is sales. One of those two roles, and then after that, you're in a director role, and have all the account managers and executives under you, and then after that is VP. So,
nice.
uh,
Okay.
yeah, but I mean that's kind of the gist of the day to day of kind of what we do. But I mean, I guess like one big project that I could bring up to just give an example,
Yeah.
the Future Astros program, for example. We have the second biggest one across all of the MLB. So what I'll normally do, if it's a new little league that I'll reach out to, then I'll basically tell them, hey, like, here's what the program is. We really want you to be a part of it. And then if they agree to it, then we basically just give them all the details. They pick their parade date. We normally have 3 different parade dates, about 1,000 kids each, with all the little leagues in them. So every little league has their own opening day. So I just did this actually yesterday, for example, was the first opening day that I had to go to, up on the north side of Houston. It was Montgomery Little League. And basically, whenever they have their opening days, I go out there And they'll do, you know, how most little leagues on their opening day, they'll have like a whole ceremony, put all the teams in the field, have the parents in the stands or whatever, talk about, you know, how excited they are about the season and all the updates and everything. And so I'm out there with basically like the Astros cheerleaders, and I get on the mic and talk about, you know, all the details of, you know, you know, what their date is and when the tickets are released and everything. But yeah, I mean, and then once we finish that, we get their parade date going. They come out for the parade, and that's that. I mean, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love too that you get to like go out into the community and engage with them like in the context of like, hey, I'm with the Astros. Here are some things like for you guys. Like it's got to be cool. Like, you know, like they're coming like they're dressed up like in their jerseys and stuff. They're thinking
Yeah,
about baseball. Like
they're in their whole uniforms too.
yeah,
All the kids. I mean, it's awesome.
yeah.
It's awesome.
I love to see that because it's I you know I think people aren't like strangers to the idea that like sports are like so big and more they're bigger than like the sum of their parts. Like people engage with them in a very unique way. People are lifelong fans. Um, and they share that with their families and their communities and like kids like look around. I remember, and this is just something that we did like in like the minor league team was like we went around and like we were just like standing like next to the players like for the national anthem, and it's just like a really cool moment to be able to engage with that way. It like fosters love for the sport like for future generations. It's that's really cool. um well, you've kind of already touched on it, but like what impact have you seen yourself making with that? Is there anything that you've identified like it's like, oh, I feel like I'm making like a real difference in this way?
Absolutely. I think one of the big things that we look at whenever we do something like that, and I believe that that's one of the biggest impacts that I have is that Future Astros program for sure. Um, one of the biggest things is whenever these kids come out and do something like that, they become lifelong fans.
Hmm.
And to be able to have an impact, you being the representative, to have an impact to get this entire league on board. You know, some leagues are as little as 200 kids, some leagues are as big as, you know, 700 plus.
Yeah.
Just that one specific league alone. And to be able to have an impact on an entire league of even as little as 200, that's 200 kids. That's 200 kids that you have that are now lifelong fans.
Hmm.
You know, especially in a time like this. In a time like this, with as good as the Astros are, bringing them out, having that look on their face when they step on the field, they have that thought of, I can be here one day.
Yeah.
You know? And that's a
Hmm.
serious that's a serious thought, man.
Yeah.
You know, to know like you'll never know. And that's the thing. You know, we have actually, so the Astros, we have something called an RBI team, right?
Okay.
And basically every MLB team has their own like in-house team. It has like their own little league,
Okay.
basically. But it's um, I'd say, you know, like a bunch of like 13-year-olds on these teams,
Okay.
right? So
Like a
they're like
juniors team, like something
right,
like
like
that.
right before they get into high, like the best of the best in each city before they go to high school,
And a cat
basically.
like a lot of like soccer teams have like academies or like yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So it's really cool. Every MLB team has their team, right? And not to toot our own horn, but the Astros have the best girls and guys, right? So
Nice.
it's pretty cool. But
That's cool.
it's what's really cool is that we had one kid actually come from that program. He went to the University of Nebraska and played, and we just drafted him in this last draft. And so, like little things like that, you know, whenever I look at these kids, I think you have no clue which one of these kids
Wow.
could be the next big shot. But to know that this could play, it's a little part, really small part, but just to know that it's a part of the process of getting their mind churning to think, oh my gosh, I'm on the same field as Jose Altuve. I'm on the same field as Jeremy Pena, and I could be that one day. They think in their heads. I ask these kids all the time, who's your favorite player? Oh, okay. Oh, Jordan Alvarez? Who's the Jordan
Yeah.
Alvarez on this team? And every kid raises their hand. Man, they go crazy. I love it. I love it because it gets them dreaming. And it's something, so yesterday, for example, and it's really the little things, Yesterday, for example,
Mhm.
basically part of what we do whenever we go out there for the Little League's opening days and give the announcements or whatever, we'll bring like a big banner for how every Little League has all these sponsorships, or even high schools have all these
Yeah.
sponsorships sitting in the wall in the back. We basically give them a banner, as basically us partnering with them, big Astros, future Astros banner. And so I have to find a team, preferably a team that's the Astros, but I have to find a team to take a picture with the banner so we can post it on our website, right? So I find one team, I give them the banner, take the picture, and afterwards one kid walks up and he's like, "Hey, can you send me that picture?" And I was like, "Yeah," I'm on my phone. I'm like, "Yeah, I can see the picture." As I look up, he has this mind you, this kid had to be maybe 10, 11, maybe,
Okay.
he has this fat Cuban link chain on his neck. And I'm thinking, yo, who are your parents? Like, well, like, what are you doing dripped out like this? Kid, dude. And he's like, "Oh, like I gotta swag out. I think I'm the best player on the team." I'm like, "Oh, you go, boy." I said,
Yeah,
"You mind
of
if I take a
course.
picture of you?" So man, I took a picture. I took a picture of him. I mean, I can send it to you if you want. I took a picture of
Yeah.
this kid. I mean, just swagged out. I mean, he posed and everything. I was like, "Can you take a picture? Can I take a picture of you?" He was like, "Yeah." Post it
Dude,
up.
that's
I'm like, "Dude,
that's
you
so
got
funny.
too much swag, man." But he was like, "Yeah, can you please send me the picture that you just took of me?" And I was like, "All right, I got you." So he gives me his phone number. About 3 hours later, I get I get a text from him saying, "Hey, I just hit a walk-off double." Like, what? But it's crazy because it's like,
Yeah.
I know that he really wanted to let me know that he hit that
Yeah,
walk-off
man, that's
double.
so
And
cool.
I told him, I was like, I love it. I can't wait for you to play with us one day, And he said, "Me
Mhm.
too." And
Me
it's just
too.
little things
Me
like that.
too.
He
Oh,
said, "Me
yeah.
too." So,
That that's killer,
those
man.
are the little things. Those
Yeah.
are the little things that, I love to hold on to. But
That
yeah,
that
I,
that's
I
a
love I love giving an impact um and really love helping the community with that. So
nice. That's amazing, man. I love what the little bits of that you share. That's I can see so vividly, like, just, like, all of those interactions, and it it makes me think too of, like, when you have, like, the graphics for, like, the Little League World Series and, like, like these larger than life, like, 12-year-olds that are that are, like,
oh yeah.
they're, like, iced out, like, "Yeah, I gotta get a little droopy for the game, it's whatever, it's not the big it's no big thing." That's too funny. Um, we talked a lot about, like, some of the really, like, awesome, like, impactful pieces of what you do. Was there anything that, like, didn't come to you as easily or was, like, hard to get adjusted to in, like, when you first started and you had to grow over time?
Yeah, I think really just understanding the importance of building relationships
Okay.
and staying consistent. Um, Consistency, I think, in anything is
Yeah.
key. And that's just a big thing that was a learning curve for me once I got to the Astros, because we have a set sales cycle where basically we're doing a specific thing kind of month by month, and you have to remind yourself that, all right, I have to make sure that I'm prepared to do this one specific thing come this go round next year, for example,
Mhm.
right? So a small example is whenever we go on sale for group tickets, right? Or a better example is whenever we go on sale for suites. So
Okay.
last year, the baseball season is from the end of March to the end of September, right? So last year we sold out of every single premium area and every single suite for the entire season in early May, which is insane. Yeah, think about that.
That's every game?
Every game.
That's insane.
Yeah, in early May. So it's things like that you got to really pay attention to, because even the season before that, we didn't sell out till maybe late June or sometime in July,
Mhm.
maybe. maybe, right? So I
Yeah.
mean, you're talking about a big difference. So I think little things like that you got to really pay attention to. So like this year, for example, I got to have the mindset that we may very possibly sell out of everything by the end of April, right? So I'm kind of talking to a lot of my clients saying,
Mhm.
hey, make sure you pick your date by this day, So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I imagine from, like, the logistics side of, like, where there's so many things that are, like, kinda schedule contingent or dependent even, like, just you gotta, like, clue those people in and, like you said, the relationship piece of, like, "Hey, guys, like, I it's important to me that you get what you want, but, like, let's make sure that we do it in a timely manner so that we're not losing out on anything." Yeah, that's hard. Yeah.
yeah, because like obviously when it comes to sales, right? I mean, I think with anything, you have to have that relationship with people, right? And once you have a relationship with people, once people remember you, you know, you like you rather than just the Astros, right? That's whenever they're going to want to keep coming back. And I think that's the main thing that I've had to keep telling myself. So kind of what was, actually, I'm glad we're talking about this now. So what was kind of funny. So me and another woman that I work with, we were the very first hires after COVID with the
Okay.
Astros. So you want to talk about almost everything being totally different. I mean, new to us, but still a lot of practices were just different in how we had to go about things. A
Yeah.
lot differently than everybody else on the floor did. That have already been there, right?
Mhm.
Um, so it's kind of funny whenever we get so in the 2020 baseball season, there were no fans in the stands at all for any
Yeah.
games at all.
Which was
So
completely alien to, like, watch, like, highlights and stuff, and, like, I
yeah,
remember, like, some teams would put up, like, like, cutouts and stuff, and I was like,
yeah,
"Yeah, that's
yeah,
gotta be jarring to, like, not have
yeah. It's
anyone there."
crazy, right? So like there was nobody in the stands in 2020, and I started in the 2021 season where things were a little more a little easing in, a little
Yeah,
taboo.
right.
People still come out. I'm still kind of having conversations of, oh, like COVID's still out there, so
Mhm.
understandably so. So I think it was a big learning curve because that first season that I worked there, in that postseason, you had a lot of season ticket holders and a lot of suite holders who were wanting to come back who haven't come to a game since 2018, 2019, right?
Mhm.
So for a lot of these people, that's a long time to not go, right? Because they go
Yeah.
so often. So we're getting sales out the wazoo because all these people are coming back.
Right.
Whereas 2022, 2023, it was a little more of a grind to have to call these people and get them back because at this point you're calling people that still 2022, 2023 still haven't been out since 2017,
Mhm.
18, 19, so it's a little more of a grind. So just kind of understanding the sales cycle and staying more consistent, I think, on a month-to-month basis and picking up on just kind of the trends from the previous years is kind of the biggest working piece.
Yeah,
So
I hadn't really considered the impact that COVID would obviously, COVID is kind of all encompassing in the things that it has touched, like, but w something that kinda clicked for me just now was the way that my dad was kind of weighing what he was gonna do with his ticket because he's a season ticket holder for Alabama, like, has been for a long time,
oh, I want to talk
and
about that.
and so
Wow.
we'll have to get you down for,
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah, yeah.
maybe
Okay,
to the
yeah.
Ole
No,
Miss game or
we're
something.
definitely going to talk about this. Okay,
It's
but go
I
ahead.
love it.
I'll tell you why. But
It's
go ahead.
I love it, I love it. But, like, yeah, like, it just hearing him, like, talk about, like, during COVID and, like, like, immediately post-COVID and even this past season of, like, how he was, like, kinda weighing his options, like, I never thought about that, and, like, it's really cool to get your perspective on, like, what it would look like from a sales perspective, to, like, like, engage with those kinds of relationships and talk with people. Yeah, that's
Which
definitely
was
very interesting.
yeah, which is so interesting because I I was working down in Louisiana for Old Smoky pretty much all through 2020. So you want
Mhm.
to talk about being in an industry where sales were up, right? like
Yeah.
sales were
Yes.
up. So you want to talk really? I feel like if anything, our perspectives on being in the liquor industry during that time
Oh,
is
yeah.
what's really interesting, because it was so different.
Yeah,
But,
100%. Well, and, like, I was, like, in the retail stores at that time
mhm.
too, and it was just like, we were one of the first places that either, like, never really closed or, like or, like, was some of the first, like, places, like, back open. Obviously, there was a time where, like, the retail stores, like, weren't open at all, but, like, vacation spots, like, East Tennessee is very drivable for a good majority of the country,
Yeah,
and they're like, I won't get on a plane, but I'll go pop down to Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge and, go to the tours and stuff." But, like, it was a um, very real challenge, like, working with some of the regulations, like, local and state level
right.
of, like, initially, like, we had to, like, radio, like, people at, like, the entrance and the exit, and it was one way for both of, like, we can only have, like, so many people in the store, and we've got plexiglass behind the bars, and it's hard to talk as yeah,
Yeah,
as
takes away a little bit from the experience, right?
it's
Like
yeah, and it's hard.
yeah,
It's
and
it's
and
so hard.
and honestly, it's got to be such. I think in your case specifically, it's got to be such an interesting perspective on being up there on the retail side during that time,
Mhm.
because if I'm not mistaken, Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, that area as a whole was one of the first areas in the country to open back up.
Yeah, for real.
So,
No, for real, for real.
so you want to talk about like being in the thick of it and then still kind of like working and all that, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Straight up. I like that was the time where, like, obviously you see a lot of, like, out of state IDs. We talked about it as, like, one of our pieces, like, for having that job, like, in college. But,
yeah,
like, I had never seen so many out of state IDs and so many different kinds of, like, different states, like, reflected and represented in that. It was unique. And we were selling hand sanitizer too. Like, it was just like
right.
it was a total fever dream. Like,
Oh my
I
gosh.
loved it. It was really hard going through it, and, like, but I loved it, and I love having that experience now, and kinda looking back
Mhm.
too is it was really cool. All right. Well, I've got one last question for you, but this is not my question. So one tradition that we've got is each guest gets an opportunity to ask a question to the next guest. So what I'll do is I'll ask you a question from Hampton, whose episode is not out at the time of recording this episode, but will be next week. And then you'll get to ask a question to whoever comes after you. So
Nice.
the question from Hampton is, what are you lying to yourself about? And I thought this was a really interesting one.
Hmm.
Hampton's he works for a company, and he hosts his own podcast too, about um, ambitious young professionals, like, leading themselves and others well. So tough question, but I'd love to hear your perspective on it.
All right, so word the question one more time, please.
What are you lying to yourself about? It's very introspective.
I
I like it a lot.
Yeah, yeah, okay. That is an interesting question. So I would say,
Could be professional, could be personal.
yeah, I'll go more the personal route.
Sure.
So I have and I just kind of came to terms with this
Okay.
very recently, like within the past couple weeks. Um, but I've realized, like it, I feel like everybody realizes it, through their 20s, right? Or especially mid 20s. I feel
Sure.
like, you kind of pick up on a lot of things about yourself,
Yeah,
right? Like
definitely.
you
Very formative.
really start to pull out like who you really are. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
And I'm sure, especially like as a dad, right? I can
Yeah.
imagine, only
Mhm.
imagine, right? And so, um, but yeah, I think I very recently kind of finally came to the terms. I knew this, but I didn't want to admit it to myself. I think
Sure.
I very recently came to the terms that I have really lazy habits.
Okay.
Really, really lazy habits.
Interesting. Could you give me an example, not to out yourself too much, but
Oh
could you give an
yeah.
example of what you mean?
Oh yeah. Like for example, let's see. For all right, here's a great example. Invisalign, for example.
Okay.
I've used Invisalign, and there were so many times where I'm supposed to wear a specific tray for 7 days straight, I would tell myself, oh, well, as long as I wear it for 5 out of the 7, I'll be
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Like that's a little bit of a lazy hat,
Yeah. I totally get you. This is one that I've been kind of wrestling with. It's a too is I used to really love, like, reading as, like, a kid and, like, even a little bit into high school, but it kinda, like, died out, and I have been really embarrassed to, like, not be a person who reads, and so I'm trying really, really hard to, like, work through books now, um, and I'm like, "Alright." It's hard to, like, self-impose, like, some rules and, like, discipline for yourself and, like, follow through on it, like, when it's not, like, homework or, like, for a class and you're just like, I just wanna read this many books this year." And I'm like,
Okay.
"Ooh," like, but, like, nothing will happen to me if I don't. It's like it's hard to, like, enact that for myself, but I'm trying to make it a reality for this year.
Dude, I feel that, man. I didn't grow up like a reader at all. I think I can maybe count on two hands how many books I've ever read,
Mhm.
and I gave funny enough, like I gave myself a goal, a New Year's resolution at the beginning of the year. I want to read it. Mind you, I'm not a reader. I told myself I want to read 12 books this year.
Yep.
12,
Well, it's a
and you're
what, 1 a month? It's a
right.
attainable, good shot. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Because I eventually want to get to a point to where I'm reading. I don't care what kind of time I got to put aside. I want to get to a point to where I'm reading about 2 dozen books a year, at
Yeah.
least. Like I really that I think that's a pretty big goal of mine, especially from, like I said, from somebody who did not grow up reading at all. I think
Mhm.
that's a pretty huge goal. So that's why I start. All right, I think if I can start with a dozen in a year, I think that's a pretty dang good start, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm pretty sure I haven't read a dozen in my entire life, So,
yeah. Totally
um,
agree. I'm with you there.
but yeah, man.
Nice. Love to see it. Well, that's a I love that question from Hampton. Is there anything that you'd like to ask? I've heard a good array of different questions here. So, is there any icebreaker questions that you love to ask people, or is there anything like that that you want to extend to somebody else?
Ooh. A good icebreaker question is like, what is your hot take?
Ooh, okay.
Right? Like if you were to go to work tomorrow, or you were to, speak in front of your entire group of friends, or group of family tomorrow or tonight, whatever. What is your hot take?
Mm.
You know, like are you that one weirdo that's taking, candy corn over Snickers? Like you can't do that. People are going to scold you for it. Is
It's
that
a
your
oh
hot
yeah.
take?
You're gonna be ridiculed. You're gonna have so many stones thrown. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
I think that's like as far as just like get to know, like icebreaker. I think that's a pretty good question. If I had to ask, and you can use either or question for the next episode,
Sure,
but
sure.
I think another question to ask would be, you know, it's kind of a double question, but what do you want out of life, and
Okay.
how do you see yourself getting there?
Nice.
Because I think, especially just kind of in our age, I would imagine that more people often than not don't think so hard about that question,
Mhm.
right?
It's
It's just,
life's happening to you.
yeah, and I'm real big on the now.
Mhm.
As much as I stress and talk about the future, I really do try to live in the now, because I feel like you hear it all the time, like from people that are over 30 or over 40, especially. They're like, "Oh, you're just so young. Enjoy your 20s." So for that reason, I genuinely do try to enjoy every second of my time right now. But
Mhm.
at the same time, it's like just amongst your peers. How
Yeah.
often are you talking about those goals? and how you're actually going to get there.
Yeah,
Is it
saying it out loud, getting feedback from others, and yeah.
exactly? And I think it's one thing to just talk about it, a couple times, but then it's another thing to really put it into existence. And I'm for sure speaking to myself on that, right?
Mhm.
Because I think I think it's too often where maybe we'll have these kinds of conversations, and we don't bring it back up for, let's just say, another 3, 4, 5 years from now.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah, you've touched on something that was like a big part of why I wanted to do the podcast. Was like I had this idea and I wanted to follow through with it, but I had like a history of being paralyzed from like enacting some of the things that I wanted to do and like going out and doing something. And it was intimidating at first, but I'm love that I get to do it now and have these conversations with you. It's awesome to have that. Well, thank you for your question. I'm excited to ask it to the next guest. Juwan, is there anything else that you'd like to close us out with? Any parting thoughts before we wrap it up?
I want to close this out with everybody watching this episode. Make sure that you tune in to Astros baseball this season.
Let's go.
I think we're gonna
Let's go,
be
baby.
we're gonna be phenomenal. So
I love to see it. And if you need some tickets, maybe you can reach out to Juwan. He
yes,
can
that is
hook
a
you
big
up
thing.
with some sales. If you have a group that needs to go, he can work out some kind of deal, I'm sure.
Or I'll tell you what, for anybody that's watching this episode, I'd imagine most of your viewers and guests aren't from or live in the state of Texas, right? So for anybody who's ever down and you want to tour the ballpark, or you just so happen to be here for a game and you want to go to a game, let me know. I'll just comp you some tickets and show you around and everything. I'd be more than happy to do that, especially if it's somebody coming from Mr. Roland himself. So
Love to
I
see it.
love it.
So you can use my code with it's at the end there. Yeah, it's a
Yeah, Roland Parker Strohs, 23.
oh
I
my
love
gosh.
it.
Yeah, you can swipe up on my stories and we'll and we'll get you there now. Awesome. Well, Juwan, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you about all this stuff. Get to catch up with you as well. That is gonna wrap it for episode 31 of When I Was Your Age. Appreciate you guys being with us for all of this, and we'll catch you in the next one.